What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Mongol Show, sponsored by Roughneck Scarves. I'm Mike. With me going around the horn, we have Josh and Liz, we have Steve, we have Justin, and we have Kev. The whole crew is here because we got a game this week, guys. Like, the season is here. I don't want to say that I was like almost in tears earlier, but like the thought that there's a game this weekend. We know there's a game this weekend. It's not going to get canceled. It's not going to get postponed. I should like knock on something.
I say there's still a chance.
Yeah. But like, we've got a team. We're going into like an actual season. Is just it's feels great, man. It's been too long, so pretty excited. Liz, I feel like we haven't talked to you in like forever. How's it going?
I cook a lot. I'm knitting a sweater.
Is it a Hounds sweater?
No, it's more like a Hobbit hole sweater. Like it's something you'd wear in the woods. Well, it blends into like the background. It's like a Heidi sweater.
Right off the bat, Laura Ellen sends a message. Why was I not invited? Sorry, Laura
I don't
Ellen.
like the competition, Laura Ellen.
I thought you were invited.
Like the competition.
Yeah.
It was in our chat. I mean, come on.
I blame your husband who is on the call. So, that's a thing. Yeah, guys, I mean, I guess any sort of preliminary thoughts here before we dive into, we got all sorts of stuff to talk about this season, but I know, for some of you, it's been a while since we've talked to you. Anything you guys want to say before we just get into this?
No, I'm good.
We're talking about
Hounds.
a season. We are talking about a season. Like, that is amazing to be at this spot. We've got a season coming up, right? Like, yes. Long overdue to be in this spot.
For sure. So just as a reminder, we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff tonight. For those of you who are watching live, feel free to post your comments, questions in the chat over on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, and we will obviously talk about them. And like I said, lots of different questions, lots of different ideas. So any thoughts that you have in relation to any of them, feel free to let us know, and we might put it up on the screen, just like we did Laura Ellen's comment. So guys, let's get into this. Typically, whenever we do these season preview shows, we try to go with like the big picture, like how many points do we think the team's going to have, or where do we think the Hounds are going to finish? And I think one of the things that we've learned, especially over the past few years, is that it's really, really hard to pick any of that stuff because any number of things could happen over the course of the season. So I think for my own personal sanity, rather than going through that mental exercise, I thought it might be better for us to focus on just the first 5 games. I feel like the first 5 games are something that is pretty measurable. You can sort of set expectations and we can revisit those on a weekly basis to sort of see where we're at. So if we say after the first 5 games that we don't have a single win, that we're going to be panicky. In 5 games, if we don't have a single win, how are we feeling? We can think back to that and sort of keep ourselves in check. So based on that, let's just start right there. Let's talk about the Hounds' first 5 games. We're going to talk about the game against Tampa a little bit more in depth towards the end of this episode. But just to set the table, okay, for what to expect over these first 5 games, and then I want to turn it over to you guys. We play at Tampa on Saturday. We play at Hartford the following week. We are then home to Charlotte. Then we play away at New York and then away at Loudoun midweek. So right off the bat, in the first 5 games, 4 of them are on the road. So that's something that like I didn't even realize until I sat down and typed this all up. So I think that may impact expectations just a little bit. But based on that schedule, what do we think are the realistic expectations after those first 5 games? Justin, I'm going to go to you first. Looking at, away at Tampa, away at Hartford, home to Charlotte, away to Red Bulls 2, away to Loudoun 2. You figure 2 of those teams are 2 teams, essentially. Hartford, I want to say, has never beaten us, potentially. What are your thoughts? What is a realistic outcome after those first 5 games?
I almost wish you hadn't gone to me first because I feel like I'm going to be the downer of the group, and
we'll start down and go up. It's fine.
Okay, well that's good. I don't want this to come across as like super negative because I don't think it's a reflection on the team at all. But I think like my realistic expectation where I'd honestly happy sitting after 5 games is 8 points. I honestly like going 4 times on the road, only having the 1 at home. Having a generally new team. I mean, granted, you can throw Forbes and Griffin and Velarde in the midfield and have Dequa out there, but like you're generally starting with at least 4 to 6 new starters, and so I think like you're still trying to put together a team, right? And I think Lily talked about it a little bit of like, yeah, it does help a little bit that your preseason competition was a little bit higher in quality and all of that kind of stuff. But I think you're still trying to get into competitive games. And so I'd honestly be happy if we come away with these first five games with 8 points. I think we can start off slow. We can build. We can get hot at the right time. All of that kind of stuff. Could we go and get 15 points? Could we go and get 12 points? Absolutely. I mean, I think this is a schedule that's set up for that. If we get past Tampa, I think there's a chance we could run off 4 straight. But I think, we'll see. We'll see kind of what happens and how this team develops. But I'm not gonna be hitting the panic button unless we have less than 6.
So 8 points, that's basically 2 wins and 2 draws. Are you mentioned sort of speeding up. Are you thinking potentially lose the Tampa, draw Hartford, Charlotte, win against Red Bulls and Loudoun?
No, I think speeding up is season long. Like I think that's where I go season long. I think I don't care where the 2 wins and 2 draws come from. I think as long as we have progress over the course of the season, I just don't think it's bad if we start off with 8 points after 5 games. I don't think we're sitting at a place where we're like, oh my gosh, let's panic and go. If we lose 4 out of 5 and get 1 win and we're sitting at 3 points after 5 games, then I'm going, okay, we need to do something. But I think if we're getting results and getting a win here or there, I think that'll set us up well for the rest of the season.
So, all right, Steve, Justin set the bar at 8 points. Do you think that feels about right, or are you panicking if we get 8? What's the number for you?
I think I'm okay with that. I look at this, right? Tampa's going to be a tough game. We're going down to Al Lang Stadium. They're a tough team. They showed on the weekend that they can score, putting 3 on Charlotte. So that makes it a little, that's going to be a tough game. If our defense is clicking like a Bob Lilly defense is capable of doing, we could shut them out, get a draw, get a win, right? Like, I don't think it takes much for us to get all 15 points out of this. I don't expect us to get 15 points out of these first 5 games. I also look down at that home game, right? Like, sure, first game in the stadium with a number of fans, not just 150 season ticket holders in the past, over a year, right? Mm-hmm. But if we look at our record against Charlotte, we've never actually won a game against Charlotte. This is the season that needs to change. Does that happen in the first game? I'd be thrilled if it does. But Charlotte's going to come in fighting, I think, to try to keep that streak alive. So that's another tough game. Look at Hartford, Red Bulls. I mean, they put up 5 goals between the 2 of them. Loudoun gave up a couple to Miami. So all winnable games there as well, I think. So if we don't win 3, I think I'd be a little less satisfied. So I'm going to put it at 9 points. And the only way to do that is win 3 out of, I guess draw 3 and win 2. That works too. I'll take that. Yeah.
All right. So Liz, Steve saw Justin's 8 and raised it to 9. How are you? How are you feeling about these first 5 games? What are your thoughts?
I am here for hot takes only. Don't know enough to make these predictions, but I'm going in strong. We're getting 6 points. It's going to be 3 draws. 3 draws, 1 win, 1 loss. We're going to win the second game super decisively, and everyone's going to be real excited, especially since it's the AGM. But then we're going to lose New York Red Bulls, like probably in like the 89th minute. Everyone's going to be devastated, and we're only going to feel okay about drawing Loudoun. That's what I'm saying.
See, you said 6 points, and I laughed, but then I'm like, we're going to look back on this, and we're going to be like, we just called it 6 points, lose the Red Bull. Like, that realistically could happen. Josh, is she right?
I was going to say 9. I mean, I feel like we're all being a little bit not pessimistic, but we're not trying to, call all all wins. But the reason I'm thinking that is not only because of the reasons already stated, but also the late start. I mean, these other teams have gotten a jump on us with as far as like competitive games, meaningful games, and just feeling like their season's already going, and ours is coming in late. So I'm a little bit scared of that, of us having a little bit, not even a slow start, just the fact that we're playing from behind already. So I would be very satisfied with 3 wins, 2 losses. Tampa Bay is one that scares me right now, especially with, them having a 3-0 win their first game, and like they're going to be coming in ready to play. So that's going to be a hard one to win. And then I'm not scared of Charlotte. I feel like the Charlotte thing is more of a statistical like anomaly. Like, oh, this is weird. We've never beat. Like, okay, like I feel like that's going to happen. We're going to win. Calling it now. But I'm a little bit scared of the unknowns as far as like Red Bulls too. You never know what's going to happen. Hartford has been interesting to watch already. But like, okay, they have a lot of fight in them. Loudon, I'm not worried about. That one has to be a win. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we get 3 wins, 2 losses.
All right, Kev, bring it home. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy with 7, maybe even 6.
6,
Team Liz.
I think it just, so historically, we don't start that fast. I know, like, in the preseason already, Bob has been talking about how, I mean, I'm massively reading into a lot of the comments, but it sounds like, he might be more aware of that this season and trying to address it and trying to get systems in play quicker, earlier in the season. But yeah, I mean, away at Tampa might be our most difficult game of the season. First game off, first game for us. Yeah, I'm with Josh. I like Hartford. And as a quick note for Hartford, I mean, we did lose to them last year when it mattered, right before the playoffs. And the fact that, I don't know. I think Hartford. I have a weird liking of Hartford. I'm becoming a low key fan of Hartford. I think they're kind of cool.
You're like Danny Griffin. Just kept talking
maybe
about how much he loves Hartford. Not the team, the town, but yeah.
So no, I think this is a tough stretch. We normally start a little slow, and I think a lot of these are we're getting difficult games, I think, out of the way pretty quickly. So no, I'm struggling to think of a list of 5 results that would worry me. Like 2 points might worry me, even 3 at this point, honestly, like depending on the manner in which it happens. I'm not like at panic stations necessarily, but let's get through this stretch of 5 games. Let's play well and let's pick up some points where we can. And as long as we do that in general, I think that's fine.
I am going to buck the trend, and I'm going to say 12 points or bust.
Of course you will.
And here's why. Typically, I shouldn't say that I'm not the optimistic one. I feel like, I don't know. You guys can tell me whether or not I'm the optimistic one. Here's why. I think that this team, we're going to get into depth a little bit here later. I feel like we have so much attacking depth this season that I don't want to say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, because we all know that, as much as you like to say that Lilly is a defensive first coach, he likes to say otherwise. But I think we're going to see a completely different look to this team. And I think we're going to come out and just try to outscore teams while having, the past few years, it's been like lockdown defense. I think our defense is going to be good, but like, I don't necessarily think we're going to be the shut down, grind them out defense that we've had previously. I think that we're going to instead put 3 guys up top and just let them go crazy and see what happens.
Where was that in the Danny Vitiello interview? Huh?
I didn't do my research before the Danny Vitiello interview, Kevin.
That doesn't sound like you.
What historical evidence do you have for this? No offense, but like, listen, Lilly has had to evolve every year, because like we say it every year. Mm-hmm. The league isn't leaving Lilly behind. He's keeping up. We're finishing top of our division, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So if he's having to evolve every year, in which one of his seasons has he ever started off with 12 points?
Oh, no. I don't
he's had like, and this is another year where he's evolving. And like we said this, like he has more forwards than we've ever had. We have more forward depth. Like as much as he can do in the preseason, when you're constantly evolving your team like that, your beginning of the season is just generally slower. So I think you're going to have more draws, which is a traditional Lily thing in my mind now, that you hit those draws first.
Listen, I don't disagree with that at all, but I also think back to last season when we were all looking at like, oh man, we got to go to Louisville for our first game and they're opening their stadium and like it's not going to be good. In the first half, didn't look good. And then we came out and we beat them. So like,
yeah.
I think that Tampa is a good team. I think everyone is picking Tampa to sort of be the favorites out of our division. But you know, there are little things, and again, we're going to talk about Tampa, you know, later, but you watch a little bit of that game that they had last week, and like, you know, they have Duba in attacking position, but he's out wide, and he wasn't really drawing fouls or anything. He was more of like a playmaker, which is new to him as well. So that's not, I can't make any assumptions around one player for an entire team, but there's definitely things here that I think other teams are trying to figure it out as well. So, you know, would I be surprised if we come out of this and it's 6 or 7 points out of these first 5 games? No, I wouldn't be surprised. But at the same time, you know, we may come out after these first 3 games and go, holy crap, like we're winning 4-1 or 5-2 or something like that. And it's crazy fun times.
Counterpoint. So, I feel like what's going to happen is Lily's going to bend these players to his style of play, and it's not going to be like we have like a whole bunch of forwards at this point. Like, some of these forwards are going to be more like midfielders.
Yeah, and it's like putting Messi at right back. Yeah,
like, it's fine. You're fast. I get it. Go here. Like you're a winger now. Like it's not going to be. I have a sneaking suspicion all these forwards we might not see him in forward play.
I think that's underestimating his acknowledgement of the need to score.
That's fair too.
Yeah. No,
I will think it will be interesting because I think last season it wasn't like we were, from memory, we were good at converting the chances we had. It felt like we had high conversion rates, and it wasn't like we were creating chances. We weren't
right.
like
we had low chances.
chances a game.
We had low chances, high conversion rate.
Yeah, and I mean that points to a couple different possibilities. One of them being we were fortunate. One of them being we had good finishers who, you know, finished chances at a higher conversion rate than maybe other players in the league. But
I would almost argue that the players that we got are better converters than the one that we had, and that is yet to be seen. Yeah, we have to wait and see. But you know, the likes of Cicerone and Alex, and like it just feels like we're grabbing guys that have been around the league, and they're not necessarily going to surprise you because you sort of know what they are, and what they are is they're good finishers, they're good creators.
Was that Mike pretending that Rapapa Mensah wasn't the best forward in the USL last year? I cannot believe what is happening right now.
I didn't say Deekwa.
Right forward and Albert Deekwa?
I didn't say Deekwa.
Deekwa's the one that's still here, though.
And hold on a second. Lest we ignore the fact that Lily did say that there were good players that he tried to keep, and he mentioned Mensah. So, like, he tried. You know who's still here? Deke was still here. Maybe, you know.
It's going to be awkward when we get Deke on the show.
Yeah.
I'm just going to like.
We're never getting him on the show now.
Like hide off to the side.
Mike
like
couldn't be here for this episode.
Yeah, that's right. You just see me like.
Is he my Kevin Kerr? Is that what's happening?
I think it's slowly becoming that. And I never said that like Deke was a bad player. I just said that I thought that Mensah was better. But okay. All right, we're gonna let it go because I hope he proves me wrong. I hope that's
never letting it go, Mike. Please don't count on that.
All right, so that's our realistic expectations for these first 5 games. We've got some fun teams that we're going to be playing here over the first 5 games. So which I was going to ask which game are you most excited for? And I'm guessing that the majority of you are going to say home to Charlotte Independence because we're likely going to be at the game. So discounting the fact that we'll be at home, which one of these 5 teams are you most excited to see us play? Tampa, Hartford, Charlotte, Red Bulls, Loudoun. Kev, we'll go reverse order. Pick your team.
I wouldn't say there's one. I could. You're gonna hate this, but I'm not gonna answer your question. I'm gonna work
Moving
backwards.
on. Liz,
I could say I'm least excited about Loudon. I could say I'm probably least excited about Red Bulls 2.
We're almost there. If you keep on going least, we're
Three
gonna find our most.
Three more.
Yeah,
Let's get there.
Who's your third most least?
Third most least. Do these shows get titles? Can we title this third most least?
Third most least. Yep. That's the title of the show.
I think I'm most excited for Hartford or Charlotte.
Okay.
And I can't give you reasons why. All
right.
He feels it in his heart.
Yeah. Exactly.
Liz, what are you most excited for?
I'm most excited for Tampa. I think that they're going to be a really hard game. It's the beginning of the season, a season that we sort of know how it's going to go out, but also we know some of the top players on Tampa. You mean we've played with them, we played against them, we've coached them. Coach knows these players to some extent. So I'm really interested to see how we hold up again. I think it's going to be a very physical game. Everyone is going to be so exhausted. You can't take my answer, Kevin.
No, I'm not.
I know that.
I'm just obviously everyone's feelings about all good. My only reasoning with the whole Tampa thing is it feels like, for me at least, I want the Tampa game to be later in the season once both teams have more of their feet underneath them, because it feels like it should be a pretty deciding game of how the conference standings or the division standings finish. It feels like these are I want these two teams to be hitting each other in the middle of the season once their form is all worked out and everything. I don't want the excuse of us playing Tampa just be well, we weren't ready yet, and that's why we got what we got. But you're right, I think it's an exciting matchup. I'm just in a way I'm kind of scared that we're going to be rusty. And
my one argument against the rust thing is I feel like this preseason, more than any, we've actually tested ourselves in ways that we haven't seen previously. So the fact that, we played Indy, we played Cincy, yes, we played Philly Union 2 this past weekend, but we also spotted them 2 goals in the first half and then scored 4 in the second. And Bob talked about in the press conference after the fact that this Philly Union 2 team have played together constantly over the past year. So this isn't it's a bunch of new guys just thrown on the pitch. They've played together, they know each other's tendencies, and we were still able to put 4 behind them pretty quickly. So I almost feel like this is the most prepared we've probably been coming out of a preseason. Obviously we'll have to wait and see. But Josh, what team are you most excited to see here?
I'm going to say Charlotte, because not just because it's, a home game, it's going to be the first home game of the season, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like it's more what we talked about before. We've never beat them. It's 6 losses against them and 5 draws. And it would be really cool to, have that weight off our shoulders, have that, the whole weird statistic of them never losing to us be changed. So that's an exciting game that has repercussions in that mentality, not only for the season, but for the league in general.
Yeah. Our buddy Hugh Roberts will be making his return to Pittsburgh. I'm going to try to see if we can get him on the show and talk to him. He has been a busy man this offseason, so that would be great. Steve, how about you?
Well, I'm going to go Charlotte as well. You and Josh brought up 2 of my 3 points for why Charlotte. So the other one is it's just a team I keep track of quite a bit because my family's down in Charlotte. So I kind of keep track on what's going on with soccer in Charlotte. If I had to pick a secondary USL team, it might be Charlotte. But yeah, so, I know what's going on down there. It's going to be fun to watch them, fun to watch that matchup.
Justin, tell us why Loudon is going to be your favorite.
Thank you. I'm glad that you said that. Actually, very seriously, I think because I'm a little bit concerned about a slow start. I don't think we're gonna have a crazy slow start, but I think that's the game where we just get the kinks worked out. I think that's just the game where we come in and drop 4, and it just looks good and it feels good, and we go, oh, we do have a good team. And even if we won some games previous to that, I think they're going to be, do I think we could go down to Tampa this weekend and get a 1-0 result? Sure. But it's going to look ugly. It's going to feel like Nashville 2 years ago when we just go silence their crowd and play boring soccer for 45 minutes. And, that's what it's going to feel like. But I think that's the game where we come in and go, okay, we're actually really good. We're going to be fine. So I'm excited about the Loudon game because I think it's just the game where we get the kinks worked out.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think I'm looking forward to all of these games, but I think that Loudon is that one where we know who we are. I think when we go into Tampa, there's going to be a lot of jitters, and we're going to say like, well, like you said, if we get like a 1-0 win or a 2-0 win, we're like, okay, but was that a fluke, or like did Tampa not play good? And we were like, okay. By the time we get to the Loudon match, we'll have 4 other games under our belt. 2 of them against, or I guess 3 of them against, legit teams that are going to be pushing for the top. And yeah, so we should have a clear idea of who we are at that point.
That's so low key rude. 2 teams who like matter. I love the shade.
Loudon's not good though. That's good. I mean, it's not a 2-team thing. It's a Loudon thing.
Yeah.
Loudon's not good. The problem is you cut this off 1 game short of like the best game of the season. So that's the problem.
Well, we got to save something for the next few weeks. Come on, man.
I'm not looking that forward ahead. What is the best game of the season?
June 6th.
Austin
Austin Bold.
Oh, nice.
Coming to Highmark.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right, so that's sort of what we think in terms of the games and how these first 5 games are going to shake out. Guys, let's talk about the actual team itself. So when you look at the roster, I think we have 22 players rostered roughly. The site says less than that, but when you start adding in people like Tommy Williamson, who we signed as a loanee from San Jose. There is. I was going to say San Diego. I'm like, that's not right. It's one of those sands out in California. We're at roughly 22. Now, when you look at, trying to predict, what this team could look like come Saturday in terms of the starting lineup, I think it's very difficult to do just because Lily's often likes to shape the team that he puts out based on the team that we're playing. But one of the things that caught me by surprise when I actually started to break all these players out is, as we've mentioned, just how many forwards we have. So we have the customary 3 keepers. I don't think anybody here is probably arguing against Danny Vitiello as the starter at this point, considering, obviously he won the Golden Glove last year and the fact that he's sort of been the face of their media circuit early on in the preseason. I think Danny has it pretty much locked down. We have 4 center backs, which I think that feels about right. Is anybody concerned about only having 4 center backs? Does anybody think we need one more? No,
because Todd Pratzner's going to come in and box it all off.
Or Rayleigh, one of the 2. It doesn't.
Or Rayleigh.
I mean, according to Josh, your midfielders or your forwards are going to drop back, so then a midfielder is going to have to drop back, so you'll be fine.
That's true.
Exactly.
I was specifically looking for Kevin's thoughts after Liverpool losing so many center backs. So 4, you think you're good with 4? Okay, good. We're good with 4. We've got roughly 4 wingers. I think one of those guys could likely slide into the middle, especially if it's weird because some of the preseason games Lily has gone to almost like a 5 at the back where he's used 3 of those center backs in the middle and then kept the wingers out wide. So again, I think having depth at your winger is a good thing. I think last year, I'm trying to think if we really had depth. We had Danny Rivera, who could sort of play either side for James or Dover. But beyond that, it's kind of light, I guess. So, yeah, 4 wingers. And then at midfield, I felt like we had more midfielders, and this is where probably some of the forwards will drop back. But at midfield, we got Kenny, Danny Griffin, Todd Wharton, Anthony Velarde, and Louis Perez, which – it feels like the biggest unknown out of that group is Louis Perez. And when we talked to all of the players and coach, the one name that kept coming up was Louis Perez. So that will be an interesting one to watch. And then at forward, we technically have 6 forwards based on what the team is putting out. Josh Gatt, Wyatt Borso, who is the 17-year-old that we signed from the academy, Russell Cicerone, Albert Dequa, Alex Dixon, and Tommy Williamson. So you could literally roll out some combination of 3 forwards and then have 3 other ones to come off the bench that might bring you something else entirely. And, Josh Gatt is sort of a question mark, I think, for a lot of us. But if he clicks, it could click and be really good. The fact that we signed Wyatt straight out of the academy means that there's something there. Russell Cicerone is a known. Albert Dequa is a known. Alex Dixon is a known. And in theory, Tommy Williamson is a known. He scored in the preseason game on Saturday. So, this is why I'm kind of excited about, how these early games could go, because we've never had offensive depth like this. Like, it's always been like, okay, who's our big guy who's going to knock down stuff and crosses, and then who's our speedy guy that might show up underneath, and that's kind of it. So yeah, so let's do this. Let's just predict. I know, Liz. I'm like, where do I go from here? Let's predict a formation, and then try to figure out who is on the bench. Let's say primarily in the midfield and forward. I think we probably have a pretty good idea, and I'm going to probably be wrong anyway, of who our defensive players are going to be, who our keeper, center backs, wingers are going to be. So, do we think that Lily goes with a 4 at the back and does, I don't know, a 4-3-3, 4-4-2? What are our thoughts here? Kev, what do you think? You've watched Lily.
In the preseason already, he's had 5 at the back before in the preseason. He showed a tendency to do it last season, and the season's gone by. So I wouldn't. We've gotten used to him playing different formations depending on the opponent. I know that's being a bit cheating, because not really. I mean, there's still a general trend throughout the entire season of shape and formation, but I don't know. I would be worried about if he's really wedded to a certain system that includes 3 at the back. I'd be worried about depth over the course of the entire season. But based off of what he has and where the talent lies.
I was gonna say, here's my concern, and Justin, tell me why I'm wrong here, or you can agree with me. If we go 5 at the back, then that means that you're keeping one of the midfielders and forwards off the field. And like, with that sort of depth, like, that's a lot of depth to have on your bench, which is a good thing. But what are your thoughts?
I just don't see Lily going with a 4 at the back. I mean, I think, if I remember correctly, I think all 16 games last year he played 5 at the back. I don't think he played a different formation at all last year. And I mean, the one thing that I could see not working for that is you're losing Ryan James. And I think, like, losing Ryan James, you might go, okay, well, we need some speed on the outside. We need some speed in the middle. So, like, let's get that from a midfielder rather than having a wide back of some sort. But I think you could almost go with the unbalanced, like, you could almost go with a 4-4-2 that looks a little bit unbalanced. That, like, you start, Dover gets up high, and then you have Cicerone or somebody on the other side who, in the offense is getting up high, but then, when they drop back, that like right, the other sided center back from Jordan Dover's like sliding over to the outside back position, and like it starts looking like a 4-4-2 when you're defending, and like a 3-5 something or other when you're going forward. And so I think I think it totally depends, but I think he's probably gonna go with that 5-3-2 that we've seen for so long. And I think that's where you start to see Cicerone and Cicerone especially, like, drop to the midfield, but be pretty aggressive in the midfield. That's what I think I like about this kind of system and the way that they play. And one of the things that I'm really hoping for is, like, when you have guys like Todd Wharton and Russell Cicerone who have played in the midfield but tend to be a little bit more advancing, is I hope they are able to help Velarde and Griffin, like, really grow in their career as the season progresses and that sort of thing. Like, I really hope, because I don't think Velarde and Griffin really have had somebody to help them grow in their craft, right? So I think, like, that's probably where it's going to sit for me, is, like, I think it's probably a 5-3-2, but I think one of your outside wingers could almost be a midfielder and not an outside back.
Not Kenny helping them grow last season?
I think Kenny's just more of a holding midfielder, and I think like holding box to box, and I think that to me, like, that's not the style that Griffin and Velarde play.
Yeah,
they're more of playmaking midfielders, and I like when you look across. That's where, like, looking across the league, I wish somebody like Lebo was still here, because I think
You
if
love
somebody like
Lebo.
could help.
You make
help
fun of
them
me for
grow.
Mensa. You love Lebo.
I do, and it's one of those players. It's one of those players I'm really disappointed that they let go, but it's somebody that I think could have helped these guys grow a little bit more in their craft. But I think like Kenny's great. I'm not bashing Kenny at all. I just think he's a different type than Griffin and Velarde. But I think to wrap that up, I think it's gonna be a 5-3-2 of some sort.
5-3-2. All right, Steve, what do you think?
So Justin talked about a lopsided 4-4-2, which is exactly the wording I was thinking. I do. I think we're going to have 3 true defenders regularly. And Jordan is going to be playing as a defensive winger. And I think we're going to have an offensive winger on the other side. And so when Jordan drops back, the 3 defenders in the back will slide over a little bit. When he goes forward, it'll be 3 at the back. It just looking at the personnel that we have, looking at the way that these guys have played in their careers in the past, we really don't have a left wing back on the roster other than Rivera or Cicerone, who's played that position. Rivera hasn't been getting as much playing time as I'd like to see in the preseason yet. I think he's going to get more time as the season goes on. I think he's primed for a breakout season. But I also don't know if playing as a left wing back is his best position. I mean, we saw him in that Indy game a couple seasons ago. I mean, or last season, right? Yeah, I mean, he was just spectacular for 90 minutes playing a man marking defensive role. So I think he's really versatile. And if we pigeonhole him to left wing back, I'm going to be dissatisfied at the end of the season. So yeah, I see it 3 at the back with wingers staggered, 2 forwards and 3 other midfielders.
So I don't disagree with anything. I think that Lily is going to shift and morph and change things, but just sort of looking back at some of our preseason games and just going purely based off of personnel in terms of our starting 11, it looks like against Cincinnati, we rolled out a 5-2-3. It looks like against Louisville, we rolled out a 4-3-3. It looks like against Indy, so we're like sort of progressing through this, we were closer to a 4-2-3. And then finally against Philadelphia Union 2, we were more like a 5-3-3. So it feels like Lily is going to shift and change and do all sorts of things. Josh, if you had your choice, I'm not saying you're Lily in this case, I'm just saying you as a fan, would you prefer to see a situation where the Hounds have 3 guys up top dedicated to trying to score? Or would you rather see us play the typical Lily that we're used to seeing where it's 5 at the back and then we sort of make magic happen from there?
I mean, what I prefer is us not to lose. So, whatever that
I should have known.
With that said, like, even when we're talking about like these different formations and that kind of stuff, like it's very formation fluid with Lily. Like it's not like when he goes in with a certain lineup and that means it's going to be a 5 in the back the whole time. It depends. And like our attackers defend just as much as they attack. Like it's not a situation where I'm worried about us having too many attackers and then letting balls leak through. That doesn't happen. Like it doesn't, it's not the way he plays. It's not the mentality he gives the players. Like when we don't have the ball, they're all defending. And so I don't really see an issue with 3 up top because it's not going to be like no one's going to be defending because of that. So all that to say is like I want to see us having a fun attacking base, style. But at the same time, I'm not saying that means we can't be defensive minded, because that's kind of what is baked into the Lily style.
Yeah. I want to talk here in a second about sort of, because of the depth, there's going to be a lot of players that are going to be on the bench that I think normally or coming into the season, we would have just expected to be starters. Liz, looking at this list of like midfielders or forwards, who do you think you will be most disappointed if they aren't starting come Saturday?
I don't know. You've asked the worst possible person this question. Like,
What?
This is not my forte. Hot take. Our formation is going to be 3-4-3. That's my hot take.
Okay.
As far as the lineup, it'll be, what have I count? Yeah, 7 people that everyone expects. 3 people that all of you guys go, yeah, really? And 1 person out of that 3, Dan Yost will hate. That's all I know. That's what I know.
Fair enough. Well, like I said, 5 games in, we're going to be looking back at 6 points, and Liz calling the 3-4-3, and that's just what it's going to be. So
I like it.
I mean,
I'll take it.
so let's talk a little bit about depth, because if say that we start 2 forward. No, let's start in the midfield. Okay, let's say that we play 3 midfielders. Then you have Kenny, Danny, Todd, Anthony, and Louis Perez. You could realistically be looking at a scenario where Danny Griffin isn't starting, or even more so, if we have 2 players in the midfield, you could be looking at a scenario where Danny Velarde and Louis Perez aren't starting. And I think those are some crazy assets to be able to bring off the bench. You look at the forward situation with, Alex Dixon, who led the team when he played for Hartford. You have Tommy Williamson from the MLS draft, Josh Gatt, who was with the U.S. men's national team. You have Russell Cicerone, who's a proven player, Albert Dikwa, who did okay for us here last year. And I mean, again, you could bring any of those guys off the bench. Is Lily going to be like a, 70th minute superstar here, where you just sort of, you do what you got to do and you get in the 70th minute and put 2 or 3 goals away? Josh?
Is Forbes playing the full 90? Are we expecting Josh Gatt to play a full 90? There's a lot of players here that are good, I agree, but they're not young players, and I could see some of these players being definitely subbed off pretty early on, or subbed in, like super subs. I expect that obviously for Forbes, but just in general, I see some really good subs coming off the bench because of the fact that we have some players that are not going to have a full tank gas.
I mean, I don't disagree, but I also don't see Lily as the kind of guy to sign 3/4 of a player. I don't see him going out and be like, you're going to be good for 70 minutes, and then I'm going to need to find somebody else to bring, to come in and cover for you. Am I wrong?
For me, this speaks to Lily's need and desire to be able to adapt and change within a single game. And we see this all the time between halves. But even if he got in 20 minutes and he's like, this isn't working, I want you to change your formation, he would just make the players change their formation. They're expected to be very versatile compared to a lot of other teams. And I think that's what the signings that we've seen are, is these are players who are able to meet that versatility, and 80% of their skill is what they're named as, and 20% of their skill is somewhere else where Lily knows he can use them if he needs to. That's what it says to me. I don't think that we're going to be like, oh, in the 70th minute, we put on our superstars and all of a sudden that's when we score. I think he's playing the full game, and we will see plenty of these players for the full 90 minutes, but he wants to be able to adapt at a moment's notice. He loves being able to change up what's going on the field so that he can meet whatever team he's playing.
See, Liz, you like to come on here and just pretend that you're the pretty face and don't have anything good to say, but you know what you're talking about. Don't sell yourself.
I mean, I know this, but don't ask me what the starting 11 is. I don't know. I know what I know, and I really don't know what I don't know.
All right, so everybody other than Liz, let's do a hot take here. Who do you think is going to be the super sub in these first 5 games? So not good enough to start, but is going to be the first one off the bench and is going to sort of make a difference here. So, Steve, I'm going to pick on you first. Who is your super sub? I'm assuming it's a midfielder or forward, but it could be, a center back or
winger. It's going to be a midfielder.
Okay.
You're out of your mind if you think if he's the same player, Danny Griffin is not starting every game that he can this season. Just going to say that. No, but the super sub, it's going to start out as Louis Perez. And throughout the first 5 games, Perez is going to prove his worth, and then Velarde is going to go back to being that super sub that he's been in the past.
Interesting.
That's a hot take.
That is a hot take. I mean,
I hope I'm right.
the one guy who doesn't have the experience out of those 4. Yeah, and I don't disagree. I think that would be a very good problem to have if Louis Perez is like the number 10 that we're all hoping that he is. Justin, who's your super sub here? Hot take.
Alex Dixon.
Alex Dixon. You don't think Alex Dixon starts?
No, I do not think he starts. Actually, I think you have wide players. I think Dikwa is probably your starter, and I think Liz going to go with what he knows. Not that Alex Dixon isn't known, but Dikwa has been here for half a season, so he'll start the games. But I think like that's where you're going to get your forward sub, is you're going to get Alex Dixon coming in. I think here's the thing that I love about our lineup this year and what we could put out there is like we can press this year like more than we have ever been able to press. When you're looking at guys like Gat, Cicerone, Dikwa, Dixon, Williamson, Griffin, Velarde, like we can press the heck out of teams and make bad teams look really bad. And I think like that's what we can do really well. And so I would rather, instead of like throwing Dikwa and Dixon and trying to put as many forwards out there as you can at the beginning, like you got to save one of them for late in the game when legs are getting tired, defenders are getting sloppy, all that kind of stuff. Then you're picking passes off, then you're running at defenders, then you're being physical with them and all that kind of stuff. And I think whatever way you slice it, Dixon for Dikwa or Dikwa for Dixon, like then you're going to really put some pressure on teams and put some pressure on defenders to make smart decisions in the 85th minute when they're exhausted. So I think that's something we could probably do really well this year.
I like that call. Josh, who's your super sub?
Yeah, I mean, originally I was thinking maybe Josh Gatt, but Alex Dixon is also a really good call. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm being ageist here, but I don't think a 31-year-old forward is going to be our starting player and going to be on the field the most, and that's Dixon. I think Josh Gatt's 29. So, I don't know. I feel like that's a good safe bet would be Dixon coming in and being like the 75th minute sub.
Okay. Kev, super sub?
Velarde. I don't think he's a starter. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if we do two midfielders, like legitimately, like Liz's 3-4-3 shout. I mean, like in that scenario, I think you can play like Dover can play as like a wide fullback, a wide midfielder. He's scored, a decent share of goals from being a right back. So, and same thing with Rivera. Rivera has, I think, the versatility and capability to play in the midfield as well. So I think like the likes of Kenny and Griffin, I feel very comfortable and saying like, they're pretty nailed down as midfielders. I don't think Luis Perez is going to get anywhere near it, especially in the first few weeks. If I don't know, Velarde. I think he's at the beginning of the season. Lily, I don't know. For me, he gave it felt like he gave Velarde a shot, and he gave him a run of games at the beginning of the season. Run of games might be too generous. He might have only got like 2 games starting. But most games he comes off in the 70th minute, and then towards the end of the season, I don't think he was getting that many starts anymore. But he's still impactful. He still scores goals. So I think that, I think Velarde is a really, really valuable asset, but I don't think he's going to be starting.
Kev, maybe you agree with me, and I just have to ask this question because he was your pick. Is Velarde back if Mertz is still here?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's even further down the pecking order. Velarde's really weird. I think he's right on that line of kicking on and being something special, and right on that line of we tried. In the USL, you get things move quick and turnovers quick, and you don't have a lot of time to prove yourself at a club. If Mertz is here, Velarde is not getting many minutes this season.
Yeah, I don't think he's necessarily even on the roster if Mertz is here.
Yeah,
but
I depending on how things shake out, I agree that I think Danny Griffin, I feel like he's too talented not to start. But I also don't think you can't start Kenny or Todd Wharton. I think the two of them have to, considering their experience.
We started all last season without Todd Wharton.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm just saying, we didn't bring Todd Wharton in to sit on the bench. He's here to play midfield, and he does good things from the midfield, and so it's tough. Kevin
Oh
loves
my
that answer
God!
so much.
Look
He
what
just
you've
left.
done to him.
Yeah, he's just,
You
he's
broke
gone.
Kevin.
I'm gonna say that my super sub is gonna be, and this is a total shot in the dark, but I'm gonna say Tommy Williamson. I think I agree, Justin, with your point about we're gonna batter down teams, and that's gonna make room for whoever that sub is that comes in it forward. And I see Williamson playing in the middle, whereas Gat seems like he's gonna be more of an outside guy. So Williamson is gonna have more of the potential for an impact, and he's also, after being loaned down from MLS, he sort of has that chip on his shoulder the same way Gat does. But like, he's younger, he has something to prove. He's a little bit fresher. So I think he's the one that maybe comes off the bench, and he's
or he's annoyed that he has to play in the USL.
I mean, this is the other thing. I sort of see him as like, I'm just like throwing shit all over the place. He's like Mark Forrest, but like you can actually like hope that it like's gonna
I have
go
a
in.
jersey of him in
I
my
know.
closet. All right.
I bought it for you, but like it's the case where we all know, like at the end of the game, you throw in Forrest, and it was a total Hail Mary. I don't think Williams.
And he produced one of the greatest moments in club
One.
history. Okay.
One, but like, yeah.
Legendary moment.
So I'm gonna say Williamson, and we'll see why. I'm probably wrong, but
Josh asked the question early on: is Kenny Forbes going to play 90 minutes? The answer to that question is always yes, unless he's hurt.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Even at 31 years old, he'll sit in that defensive midfielder role and just
tell all the other guys where to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
If he's asked to do it, he's going to do it. I have no doubt. If he's asked to do it, he's going to do it.
Well,
but
he
I'm worried
can-
about him getting injured if he
can
keeps
do
it up.
because he can step back a little bit and we can throw up one of our wingers. Do you know what I mean? Like our
Yeah,
wingers
exactly.
aren't necessarily full defensive. I think that, I mean, I guess you list them as defensive because traditionally they are, question mark. I don't know things. But for me, most of our wingers are more midfielders to me. Like they don't play that far back most of the time.
I mean, I guess that's the other question. Does Lily technically roll out a 4-man backline, but Kenny is sort of that fifth that sits like right barely in front of them and directs everything the way Tommy V kind of sort of did, but not really?
You mean 3-man back line?
I mean, 4-man backline. I know. All right.
I don't know. I have a sneaking suspicion that one of the things I can remember immediately from the interview with Lily is the question I asked him about Kenny.
That I wrote for you, but go ahead.
Yes. Full disclosure, Mike does everything in this podcast. What was about like Kenny's role and like higher up the field and being a playmaker from deeper or higher up. And I seem to remember Coach Lilly saying like, he's trying to get Kenny higher up the field, and Kenny has a little bit of like a resistance to it and wants to drop back deeper. So I don't know. I don't know how that's going to play out, but my hunch is Lilly will want to get him higher, not deeper.
To be fair, Lily's been yelling higher for at least 3 seasons to all the players.
All the players.
So there's always that to keep in
Sure,
mind.
maybe he just wants the back line playing on the 50-yard line the entire time.
Higher.
If he's not saying higher, he's saying Romeo.
Yeah.
Still.
I will say I was rather surprised because like I still think of us as, we're just a bunch of people who get together and hang out and talk about the Hounds. But the Hounds had this past Wednesday sort of their virtual kickoff meeting for the season. And the number of times that like coach and the players and like the host name drop Mongols, like, oh yeah, I was talking to Mongols about that. Or like, I heard on Mongols, you don't like Permanis or whatever. It was like, wow, okay. Like I totally just assumed that Lily came on the show and immediately forgot about who we were. Like just, we didn't even exist. But
That's always what I assume. Yeah.
I was just like, oh,
With
okay.
everyone I meet, not just.
He was like, yeah, I was just talking to the Mongols guys about this the other day. So I was like, oh, sweet. Thanks, Lily. So
I mean, Lily is one of those guys that if you give him any, like, if you talk to him about soccer, he'll remember you because he's just like, oh, I get to talk about my favorite thing.
True.
for sure. So, guys, let's talk about the game this weekend. We are at Tampa, 7 p.m. How is everybody going to be watching the game? Anybody doing anything fun? Josh, Liz, what do you guys got going on?
It's the AGM/game. So if you're a Steel Army member, there is an event at the stadium. It starts an hour before the game starts. We're going to get together, have our General Assembly meeting, talk talking about what the plan is for the season and what all that kind of Steel Army stuff. But then afterwards, they are letting us hang out at the stadium and watch the game on the scoreboard.
Nice.
So it's all going to be outdoors. We're going to be in the stand just watching the scoreboard and watching the game on the scoreboard. And I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast.
Are you guys electing a new president this year?
No, we're not.
You're stuck with Josh, everybody.
Oh,
I apologize.
yeah. I shouldn't say like you all because I'm in the Steel Army too. But yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, if you're in the Steel Army, make sure you get down. But you do have to reserve tickets first, right? Because they're going to email the tickets to your phone. Is that how it's working?
Yes, we're
Yeah.
testing out the ticketing system with them. So it's free tickets. Not like you have to pay for anything. You just got to let them know. If you are on the Discord, and you don't have the link, ask there. You should have gotten a dispatch with the link in it. And then if you know what the speakeasy password is for the website, you can also just go on there and it has a link behind that password.
Is there a limit to how many tickets you can get?
We didn't set up a limit. It just says like how many tickets you need, and then you put in the number. So like I assume
45.
Just don't abuse it.
Fair
But
enough. Fair enough. So yeah, if you're in the Steel Army, make sure that you get down to the game, watch it on the scoreboard, be in the
Or if
stands.
you want to be in the Steel Army, you can buy your membership that day.
Yeah. You can contact anyone, like contact the Steel Army on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and we can get you in. We're not close to our limit, so we're not like really worried about capacity.
What time does the AGM start?
I think it's 6:30. I want to say
Yes.
because it's an hour before the game. Yeah,
AGM 6:30, game at 7 or 7:30, and
it's 7:30.
yeah. So all right, let's do some predictions. Against Charlotte, the Rowdies rolled out what appeared to be like a 3-4-3. I mentioned a little bit earlier that Duba, who is now with Tampa, was not in sort of the center of that 3-4-3 as we sort of, not that we played a 3-4-3, but he sort of was that crux of our offense when we had him last season. They had him off to the right, almost more of a playmaker. And he did set up one of their goals. It was a really nice setup. Keeping that in mind, the fact that we're going to see Duba, first of all, something that immediately crossed my mind was like, oh, like we should tell our defenders not to foul him because like he was so good at getting fouls for us last year. But what do we think is going to happen in this one? Let's do some actual score predictions and any sort of highlights that you think we're going to see. Kev, I'll start with you.
Because I'm shaking my head.
Yeah, I'm like that teacher that always looks for the student who's like trying
I
not to
hate
make
those
eye contact just so that I can call on you. Yeah.
No, I how could you? I don't know. How could you predict? I don't. I'm not like.
You
I
do it
shouldn't have-
every week.
I shouldn't have called on you.
Every
We've been doing
week.
this every week for like
To be
6
fair,
years now.
when we say we do this every week, we predict the score every week. Kevin finds a way to not predict the score every week.
Let me tell you why I disagree with that question, Kevin.
I'm gut. A prediction will come at the end of the statement, but I'm very excited about watching the team after what feels like ages not watching them. But I'm not particularly like excited about the result. I don't feel that confident. Very happy with the draw. But I don't think we're gonna win. But it's gonna be exciting nonetheless.
Justin.
Wait, he said
Yeah.
there would be a prediction. There was no prediction.
I said we weren't gonna win. What do you?
Okay.
Not a score
Oh.
prediction.
So we weren't
Okay.
gonna win, and it was gonna be
My
exciting.
bad. Okay, stop talking.
Like I said earlier, I think this game is going to look a lot like Nashville 2 years ago. And like we're going to go in and play a real boring game for the first 45 minutes and just sort of shut their crowd down and that sort of thing. And I think that that's what it's going to look like. And so then I think it depends how the offense is clicking to how many chances we can create and all that kind of stuff. And so I do think if the offense is clicking, I think we can score some goals. I do think they'll also score some goals. I think our back line will have to click together, and especially with not having that sort of like commander in chief in Tommy V, and having somebody who can kind of cover and kind of call things, and who some of these guys could see the game really well, but I think Tommy V could see the game so well and really help the back line. So I do think that's going to be a struggle. I think we're probably 3-2 or 3-1 loss, something like that. Like, I think we'll have our chances, but it's about putting them away and that sort of thing, and then not giving up goals on the other end. But I think, I think it's going to be an exciting second half. I think the second half will be an exciting part of the game.
Steve, what do you think?
I tend to agree a lot with what Justin's saying, other than I think what's going to happen is they're going to score, not because we're not doing everything we want, but we're doing well defensively, and our guys haven't played together that much yet, right? Like Coach talked about it a couple weeks ago. Having the extra preseason games, having the harder competition in the preseason is good. So I think we're moving forward in that sense, but I think we're still starting a little slow, and there's going to be some disorganization on the back line, and that's going to open things up. And once things open up, then who knows, right? Like I think if things open up, we've got the chance to put away a couple goals and take a draw or a win, or it could be a 3-2, a 3-1 loss. So I just think after that first goal, things open up, and then we get a lot of fun to watch. And that's a very Kev-like answer where I don't actually give a prediction.
That's all right. Welcome to the show. Liz, what are you thinking here?
I really thought you guys were like actually going to say things, and
ouch.
Like I was pretty sure there was a discussion about not like it depends. Listen, I'm an attorney. I say it depends a lot. But can't we just, put something forward? All right, it's going to be a 2-2 draw. It's not going to be boring, Justin. You're so wrong. Very physical. 5 yellow cards.
Man,
that's my prediction.
Down to the card count. I like it. Josh.
Yeah.
Wait. Can we ask Liz how many of those yellow cards are fouls against Duba?
He's only going to be able to draw 1. The ref is not going to be having any of it. He'll get 1, though, for sure.
I look forward to the first time where I'm like complaining because Duba drew a foul and I think it's BS, and be like, it's not a foul. Last season, all that. It's like, man, he's really good at drawing those fouls. It's really smart and tactical, and I really respect that about his game. I can't wait to be this is BS. He's the worst. How can he do that?
We know, Raph.
The game is rigged. It's gonna be fun. But no, I think it is gonna be a situation where it depends on how much we can shore up our defense in the first half, because I do think the first half is going to be rough. It's going to be, a very big test for our defense, for the whole team, obviously. So depending on how many we let in that first half, I feel like the second half, we could definitely make that up if we stem the bleeding some in the first half. So I'm hoping for a 2-2 draw. But I'm really scared that first half could be a bloodbath if we're not careful. And then the game getting away from us, because that's going to make morale down. It's going to make it harder to come back from. So I'm hoping when we hold them off, it looks like 2-1, 2-0 at the half, and then second half we come back with a vengeance.
Mike, do you have an actual prediction?
I said 2-2.
I know listen, this household is doing great for predictions. I want to know if Mike has one.
I'm going to say 3-3, and I think it's going to be a 3-3 that we feel really good about, because I think what's going to happen is we're going to come out a little bit slow and nervous, and Tampa is going to be pumped up because this is their second game. I think Tampa gets 1 or 2, and then, not that they start to rest on their laurels a little bit, but maybe they get a third, and then we battle back and get 3 back. So by the end of the game, we're like, holy crap, if we had just played that way from the beginning, we're a legit team. And in typical Hounds fashion, we don't really know how to feel going into the next game. We're like, well, we played really well, but we tied. So what does that mean? Can we actually play that way for 90 minutes? I don't know. So that'll give us a lot of talking points prior to the game the following week.
So you're in it for the content.
Yes. I want good talking points, Liz. I don't care what the score is. Just give me something to talk about.
Okay,
There
fair.
There will be yellow cards in this game. I mean, Forrest Lasso's on the field, so there will be yellow cards.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's what we think. Let us know what you think, guys. Just like super excited to get everybody on the show and talk. I know we're already over an hour, it feels effortless, which is kind of crazy. Like we just get together and have a good time and BS about the Hounds. So grateful that everyone's back. Grateful that we have a season to talk about. Grateful that we're starting this weekend. It's going to be so great. I said great like 15 times. Anything else that I missed that you guys want to talk about here before we close this thing out?
Listen to Soccer Better, because then you can hear more of me talking about things. And that's what really matters, guys. Soccer Better.
And I don't see Laura Ellen adding any comments here, but I'll say for Laura Ellen as well that she is going to second you saying go listen to Soccer Better, and I third it. You guys absolutely should go listen to Soccer Better. So she's
the brains behind it, so she should second it.
There you go.
She did have a comment from the beginning of the show that she did say something about Liz knows how to soccer better. So
yes, this is true. This is very true. So. All right. Well, thank you guys. And thank you everybody for listening. Head over to mongols.com, click on support the show to become a Patreon follower. This is your weekly reminder that Black Lives Matter. Let's get into the fun bouncing around. Thanks to our sponsor, Roughneck Scarves, official scarf supplier to USL, MLS, and US Soccer. Get custom scarves for your group or team at roughneckscarves.com. Sorry. Hold on. Like we'll try to, there we go. Now you guys are sort of kind of in the way there. Now you can duck down, Kev. Tired of the same old uniform and cookie cutter templates from Nike and Adidas? Looking for a unique, completely custom kit for your youth club, Sunday league squad, adult, or even pro team? Icarus FC can help you create the kit of your dreams at an affordable price. Let them help you design your new custom kit today at IcarusFC.com. Looking for more great USL news? Head over to the BGN.FM, where we've now got over 100 fans that are writing and podcasting about the People game. Lots of great features that went up on the site this week. Check them out over at BGN.FM. I feel like this is almost like that Google Doodle thing where like you like come in and you're like, how can I play with it? This is great. Thanks everybody. We'll talk to you very, very soon.
Cheers.
Bye guys.
Later.